Hello, and welcome to Move the Line Prop Drop Show. I'm Ryan Noonan, back to talk about the best way and the most profitable way to bet on NFL football, and that is player props. Live here, 2 p.m. Eastern every Friday, keeping it rolling through the Super Bowl, giving you our favorite player props on the board and the ones that we're looking for that aren't currently on the board, taking your questions as well. So if you're hanging out with us now live on YouTube, subscribe first so you don't miss a show. Smash that like button, goes a long way in helping us out, and jump in the chat. Let us know what your favorite prop look for week 18 is. Definitely a tricky week for sure. Added elements of difficulty here this week, obviously with scheduling unknowns that have just kind of started to make sure that they're cleared up and we know what the week 18 slate is now. Joining me here as always, Connor Allen. How we doing?
Great. I was just reminded pre-show by producer Sal that apparently the Sinaloa cartel is moving in currently on my location in Mexico. So very excited to get out of the country, hopefully safely.
Hopefully safely return home. And our other guest, of course, joining us here as always, the man from the Mayo Media Network and the Pat Mayo Experience, just recently booked a trip to Mexico. So good times, Pat. How we doing?
Yeah, my car wasn't stolen, so I should be okay.
It's true.
Could be a rough week for me. I mean, car stolen, attacked by a cartel. I mean, at least good stories though, right? I think, made some memories.
That's all you need from a vacation.
Yeah,
unfortunately, the memories are huge.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What are you doing?
We'll
you're going to come home to what? Like, what's the situation there? If you don't know, unfortunately, Connor's car got stolen out of his driveway with a USB while he's been in Mexico. So maybe a watcher of the show knew you were out of the country and made their way over to your house.
I mean, the joke's on them because now I'm getting a nice new car because my insurance is going to count it as totaled in a week if it's still not found, and currently still on my A. So, shout out to the Kia boys for hooking it up with a nice new car for me.
The crazy part is that they got involved in like a high-speed chase and they couldn't catch it. That's really the only way that because otherwise you'd be just going home to an empty driveway. But luckily that actually happened and worked out that way for you, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was amazing. It's like a call at 3 a.m. They're like, hey, what were you doing, at 1 a.m.? And I was like, I'm in Mexico, and they're like, oh, well, we saw your car driving 30 minutes away from your house, 70 miles an hour, tried to pull him over, but didn't get him. So, yeah, your car's stolen. And I was like, okay, well, what do I do? I've never had that happen to me. So I had to go through all that crap, and hopefully it looks like we'll come out on the other side whole. And as long as everything goes well, I honestly hope they don't find the car at this point, because if they find a car beaten to shit, in some dump, now I got to go through the process of fixing it or whatever. If it's not totaled, I don't even want to have to deal with that. Just dump it, total it, give me a new car.
Crazy. Yeah. All bricked up. You don't want to find that thing. So hopefully it works out for everyone. We'll let folks know before we jump into props here. 2 episodes of Move the Line each week, both available here on YouTube, also in podcast form, wherever you consume podcasts. This is the Prop Drop Show. We have a game preview show with Connor, John Daigle, and myself, looking more at sides and totals. Again, available on both YouTube and podcasts. So we appreciate you subscribing so you don't miss those episodes at all. Also, a new unique YouTube channel, 4for4 Bets, with original content there every week as well. We're obviously winding down. Mentioned we're going to keep this rolling through the Super Bowl. We have a discounted subscription over at 4for4. You can go to 4for4.com/plans. You don't need a promo code. It is discounted on the site, $34 for a betting subscription. Gets you everything on the site, all the tools, Discord channels, everything through the end of February. So you get a little bit of maybe golf content, NBA, MMA. If you're in the Pick'em channels, or Pick'em sites, we have channels specific for that as well. If you want to jump in there, again, 4for4.com/plans. We've been kind of bemoaning before we started here. It's week 18. This is really tough. And we basically have parts of 7 games available right now. So we're going to talk about some plays that are available. We're going to give you some looks that we like. Hopefully can ballpark the number for you and give you an idea of where we would jump in. And we've had to do that at times in the last couple of weeks too, as books have been slow to release. So we will do our best to do that here. Connor, I'll let you get started with your first play for week 18.
Yeah, my first play here is going to be a Saturday game. Travis Etienne, I like the under on his rushing yards. This has gotten all the way up to 68.5. I played it at 62.5. I know another group hit the over there, but I really like this under. The Titans last week essentially got a bye, resting some of their players against Dallas. Now have a very healthy defense compared to what they have the past few weeks. But regardless, their front seven has been, very healthy and been very good when they are healthy. This season allowing just 3.41 yards per carry to opposing running backs, second in run defense DVOA, and they haven't allowed a 60-yard rusher since week 3, including a 17-carry, 32-yard performance from Etienne. And not to mention, the last time we saw the Jags and Titans play, the Jags kind of knew what to focus on here. They came out, threw the ball 38 times with just 16 total rushing attempts through the first 3 quarters. Until the game got out of hand, it was like 33-14 at that point. So I expect them to go pass heavy here. And if they're up big, I don't think it's going to be Etienne necessarily getting the carries here. It might mix in some other guys as well. So I like the under here. I think now you're able to find like 68.5. I think it's a great look.
Correlates well with, I think, something else that's maybe coming from you later. Pat, any leans on the Jacksonville game here?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to make that one my first one. It's going to be Zay Jones over 54.5 receiving yards. I think you could theoretically just play Jones, Ingram, and Kirk all to their over, and you'd probably be doing pretty well in this spot because I saw the same thing that Connor did. They're just Jacksonville smartened up basically in the second half of the season and just really decided to ride with what the defense is giving them. The defense is going to be giving them everything 8 to 15 yards down the field in the passing game. Why even try to run in this circumstance? And I think it's going to be enough to feed all 3 of those guys. Zay Jones, I like the best. And I mean, 54.5 is not a huge number to cover here.
No, actually, it brings up another point too, because I like the line too. I like the Kirk line to your points. And there's been a lot of discussion in the Twitter space in the last, 48 hours or so, which happens every year, week 18, is the incentive piece, Pat. And I'd love to get your thoughts on the just blindly tailing props for player incentives. We talked about this a little bit on our Wednesday show. Zay Jones and Christian Kirk are involved, where I think they have pretty low thresholds. I think it's receptions. I think they both need like 2 receptions or pretty low yards. I don't even know what it is, but what are your thoughts on that process? And, how much do you tie that into any of your analysis at all?
Okay. It's not that I don't, but there's 2 ways to look at this. And I believe that Kirk and Jones both need like 89 yards or something like that to both get $500,000. I think it matters in games that don't mean anything. And then they can just simply, like, if Minnesota jumps up by like 14 on the Bears, I think every play is just going to be 9 yards slant to Justin Jefferson to get him to the number. So I think that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is if you're in contention to hit some of your bonuses for the year, it probably means you're pretty good anyway, that your overs normally hit. So I think that, no one's going to bet the over on Kenny Golladay this week or Cam Akers, who needs 800 rushing yards in order to get to his number. So, like, I don't know. You can see the ones that are within reach, and is it plausible that they get there? Then they probably get there because that's what they do.
Yeah, I agree. I think Connor does too. We talked about this. Also, like tailing like money line parlays against teams that need the win versus teams that don't. Like these things, I think could be very, very dangerous. We saw last year. I think the Colts and Jaguars is the one that jumps out to mind first. But Connor, any other thoughts to kind of tap on what Pat did?
No, I mean, I think you did a great job explaining it. It's like, because if you look at what the whole contract incentive thing is about, it's like in games that don't matter, that's an extra piece of motivation to a coach wanting to dial up plays for a player or a quarterback wanting to feed a player to get them there. If you're in a game that needs to be won, like this Jacksonville, Tennessee game, they're not going to care about Christian Kirk getting 91 yards. He might still get there because the matchup's awesome, but like, they're not going to be like, oh, he's at 88 yards. We got to throw him another slant. Like that's just not something that happened. Doug Peterson is going to focus on winning. I mean, imagine a post-conference presser where they're like, Doug, like, why did you throw it on 3rd down and 1 instead of running the ball to, Christian Kirk? Oh, I wanted to get him his $500,000 bonus, but it cost us the game. Like, I mean, imagine that. That'll never happen. Like that would never, in what world would that happen? So I don't know. I see stuff like that. I think it's kind of funny. I do think it matters in some instances, but this year's there's not a whole lot of it. Honestly, there's nothing that I've seen that's really stood out. Maybe there was 2 Chargers ones that I thought were interesting, like a DeAndre Carter, 2 receptions he needs to get there. And he's been playing a little bit more lately. And then I think there was a Gerald Everett one, but I don't even know if he's going to play. So I don't know if that, he's like 40 yards, I think. So like, those are like, I mean, really might not even matter either.
Yeah, those are all good points. I think you got to go case by case and, blindly tailing him because you see someone reference that as the reason behind it. I think you should just be careful and make sure that it lines up to Pat's point. Like, it's a good player. If he's close to incentive, he's probably earned it. I'll make sure it's not far off. Like last year, Cooper Kupp needed 135 yards or something like that. And like they hung his line at that number. And, it's just so inflated. You're paying the tax in some instances too. So, I think the Justin Jefferson one is interesting. It's like, it's almost 200 receiving yards. But again, like it's a game that they kind of are telling you that they want to play, and the Bears obviously, even if they were playing their guys, I don't even know what that means. So that one's kind of interesting. Maybe alt on Justin Jefferson, but first play for me here is going to be on. So this isn't readily available. I haven't posted it for our subscribers at 4for4 because it's only been on 2 books. It's available on PointsBet. It dropped a little bit. It's out there still currently on FanDuel. That's Ramondre Stevenson under 52.5 rushing yards. On PointsBet, you could also take his total yards at 75.5. I think the under is still really good there as well. He is not topped this. He's only done this once in the past 7 games. And that was when he had basically no competition in the backfield. Then last week, Damian Harris comes back and more carries. We've heard Ramondre in the press talk about this is taking a toll on him a little bit this season. He's feeling it on his body. This is a massive workload. He did not have a massive workload at Oklahoma in college even. And now you have a really difficult matchup on the road against an emotional Bills team. Bills are still a top 10 run defense. It's going to be a negative game script as well. So I get, like Connor and I were talking about this. I think Connor agrees. This is why I'm leaning rushing yards too, is in negative game script, you could probably see a little bit more passing down work for Ramondre. Even that's been pretty bad this year. He's been getting a ton of carries, but he hasn't topped even with like 5-6 targets a game. He's not even getting like 10 receiving yards. He's like catching and falling down a ton. So Ramondre, I think, is ready for the offseason. I think the Patriots are as well. So Ramondre under 52.5 rushing yards is the play. Again, DraftKings not in on that yet. Caesars, MGM, but I still kind of like it.
I mean, even high 40s is probably a good look because like there's a lot of outs here. Like if the Bills go up big, they're probably not going to run the ball. So you're probably looking at less carries. And as you mentioned, he's been tired. He hasn't been very efficient. And, Damian Harris has been eating into his work. So there's a bunch of work there. We did discuss the rushing receiving yards under because that's a little bit more widely available, I believe. And that's, I have these I'm scarred from these running backs just running little curl routes out of the backfield and sitting like 7 yards past the line of scrimmage, catching the ball and then tumbling forward for like 5 more yards. So, I think that it's one of those things that like you can easily just get 2 or 3 of those and you lose your bet because of that rather than the rushing yards, which has way more outs. So I like that under a lot.
Yeah. Pat, any thoughts on Ramondre?
Not really, but I did cook up a same game parlay for that Tennessee-Jacksonville game while you were talking.
Let's do it.
Oh, love it.
We have ETN under 64.5 rushing yards. This is at 365. Zay Jones over 55.5. So the two that we like. I like Okonkwo over 25.5 receiving yards. I like Derrick Henry over 14.5 receiving yards, just based on the way in potential game script, the way that Dobbs checked down to his running backs last week. And now that we know Derrick Henry is going to be back, he's going to be on the field the entire time. I'm just going to translate that all onto him. I think it was like 4 for 74 or something like that through the air last week for running backs. And then Dobbs himself over 16.5 rushing yards. That's easy. 25-1, print it.
25. I love it.
Wow.
We're getting up there. Because those aren't even alts, really, right? You're taking just the same.
Those are just straight up props. I mean, not that I ever go 4-0 on the show, except for the same game parlay as mentioned that I gave out last week, which won. So now I'm greedy and I'm bumping it up again.
I like it. All right. 365, that might be out there elsewhere too. Because again, that's the one of the only games that we're basically getting a full slate of props currently. Most other stuff is pretty limited currently, but try to keep it rolling. I don't know if you have an official play, Connor, your next one or the next thing that you are eyeballing here for us.
No, I mean that same game parlay is right in line with kind of what I was looking at for my other play. And I played, maybe I'm too into one situation here, but I had to play Trevor Lawrence's over on his passing yards here as well. I mentioned it earlier, just massive pass funnel. They literally 70% pass rate through 3 quarters last time against the Titans. It's a must-win game. I could see them coming out just going massively passive. I think you take alternate overs for Lawrence, like 300 plus yards pretty easily. Had 356 last time. I thought attempts and completion overs were both good looks too, but I thought those were a little bit more thin given that if they go up like 24-0, maybe the volume doesn't get there. But I think, that probably doesn't even help your same game parlay at this point. But if it does, then, I think that's a throw in at this point.
Probably get it up to 40 there, Pat, with the little Trevor Lawrence action.
Would you like me to see what that does?
Yeah.
Let's see.
All right. Well, Connor, give me the is Trevor Lawrence going to be your second play?
Yeah, that was my second play. Those are like my only 2 official plays that I've played so far. So.
All right. Well, I'll give you mine while I try to work this out. Then I'll recap it once we get back to Noonan. It's on the board right now. I mean, I'm just waiting for Jets props so I can smash those. So just in full disclosure, Garrett Wilson over. I don't care what the number is. Tyler Conklin over. Don't care what the number is. Joe Flacco pass attempts. Don't care what the number is. Going over. I told Noonan before we came on, I'd play Flacco to over 45.5. And I bet you it's probably going to be like 39.5, but he's going to be chucking. And you know who he likes to chuck to? Two guys, as it turns out. Garrett Wilson and Tyler Conklin. We'll see if that's changed over the past 3 months, but I very much doubt that it has. So just those three individually, same game parlay, whatever you want to do. But I will be going to the Rams-Seattle game, 72.5 over rushing yards for Cam Akers. I would play alt lines on this. I think he is going to destroy them.
Love it. Yeah, they're beat up too. Their all-pro linebacker, Jordan Brooks, is done for the year with an ACL injury. It's a mess there too. I'm tailing. I also have the Conklin and Garrett Wilson stuff down. It is, I think, it's kind of a great spot for them. We had 3 Flacco starts. Both of these guys caught, on average, through 3 games, 6 balls on 8 targets. Great matchup. Miami struggles mightily against tight ends this season. Catch rates, DVOA, receiving yards, whatever you want to do. Tight ends against Miami have just been fed and done really well. And Garrett Wilson was a part-time player during the Flacco starts. He was running about on 64% of the dropbacks. Still 8 targets, 14 targets, and 11 targets in the Flacco starts. So like he's coming out there, good old, F1 Ford pickup truck, going to get the job done and chuck it around quite a bit. And Miami's been a pass funnel. They have been actually much better against the run than the pass. So yeah, I'm with Pat on that stuff. My second play, I want to reiterate that one, but then I want to wait a little bit. I'm gonna mention it because I am leaning over anyway. I want to get the McCole Hardman injury news for sure. He has been taken off of IR. They have not said if they were going to make him active. Sky Moore is out in this game, and even in a part-time role, I'm trying to get whole some way on Kadarius Toney. A lot of best ball Kadarius Toney. 35.5 receiving yards is out there on Toney. I mean, we know like the Chiefs need this game. Mahomes wants to put a nail in the MVP coffin here. The Raiders are a terrible pass defense. And even in limited role, we've seen like last week, 4 balls, 4 receptions, 71 yards for Kadarius Toney. He could do it on very limited work. I think he probably approaches 45, 50% route participation if Hardman is out. So big place for Toney. That's going to be probably a play for me. And I think that's available on both FanDuel and PointsBet currently. So not readily available, not everywhere. And I still want to wait for the Hardman news, but I think that's definitely something for you to watch.
I think Hardman's going to be back. And if that's the case, it's almost like a 1-for-1 correlation with the rise of a certain player on the Chiefs and the absence of Mecole Hardman. It's Jerick McKinnon. If Hardman's back, I just go under 33.5 receiving yards on McKinnon.
Connor and I were talking about that line. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but if Hardman is out, I like the over.
Yeah, he's averaging like 67 receiving yards per game in like the last 5 weeks.
But go look at when that started. It was the week Hardman went out.
Interesting. Yeah, so maybe the Tony Blake can work, and maybe that correlates. We're building more same game parlays here. That correlates well together. So
I did finish that one off. So ETN under, Dobbs over rushing, Zay Jones over receiving, Lawrence over. Oh fuck! I picked pass completions. I'm going to cash that one out either way. Derrick Henry over receiving yards, Okonkwo over receiving yards, 33-1. And I think with passing yards, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, I actually when Connor was talking about the receiving yards play, I kind of I like the completion number too. I kind of hate that. It's 23.5.
It's 24.5 here.
Okay, yeah.
Well, so that's no fun.
That's getting a little higher. Yeah. All right, Connor, back to you. A reminder, if you're hanging out in the chat, jump in. Let us know what your favorite look is for Week 18. Is there anything that you want us to talk about? We have time at the end of the show. What do you got, Connor?
Yeah, so one that I haven't made official, but it's still available. It's on FanDuel and PointsBet right now, and I think a couple other spots. One that I was eyeing, J.K. Dobbins under 64 rushing yards. I know he's been crushing this lately, but we came out of last game, and they were like, we need to get Gus more involved. Only 2 carries for 3 yards. Now you have Tyler Huntley maybe out for this game. They're like very non-committal against it all of a sudden. They're like, we don't know if he's going to play. I mean, they're 7.5-point underdogs, if not more at this point. I mean, if Huntley doesn't play, they're going to close as like 10-point dogs. I mean, I would just worry about the matchup too, given that Cincinnati with DJ Reader has been really good, defensively. So, I mean, if he's getting more like 10 to 12 carries instead of his like 15-ish that he's getting, I think the under here could be a solid look, especially if there's game script concerns as well. So this is something I haven't played yet, but I was kind of waiting for some more outs to be official. But it is a look that I like, and I was curious on your guys' opinions on that. I know it's tough betting against him, how good he's been, at least in terms of the final stat line. But any thoughts?
What do you got here, Pat? Any projection there?
Let me look it up. You go.
No real thoughts. It's such a weird situation because I feel like they're annoyed, or it sounded like Harbaugh was annoyed that we didn't get enough Gus Bus last week. It sounded like a shot at Greg Roman, like he really wanted to have a little bit more of that, but I don't have a good feel for it.
6 carries for 28 yards.
For Gus or for Dobbins?
For Gus Edwards.
Okay.
And then Dobbins would be 14 carries for 70 yards.
Yeah, it's tough.
Well, it's probably a negative game script the most of the game, so how much can they really run?
Yeah.
They're going to want to run, but how long is that going to work?
Yeah, like you could have like 40 yards in the first half, and then the second half have like 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a great situation. That Baltimore offense has been so bad without Lamar. That situation is so strange because I feel like he's ready, and this is a contract thing, I feel like. So tough spot for that Ravens club. Pat, number 3 for you. What are you looking at?
Well, it's listed. I like the Zach Moss over rushing prop, whatever it may end up being. Who knows? My projection has him at 289 rushing yards this week. Jordan Wilkins not playing. It's a great spot against Houston for him. But his anytime touchdown is plus 135. I would prefer to play the over rushing prop. However, that does not exist at the moment. So I assume it's going to eventually drop probably 72.5, 73.5. Love the over on that. I even tried to look it up on Prize Picks. Doesn't exist there either. But the one Zach Moss prop you can get right now is anytime touchdown plus 135. And I like that as well.
Yeah, what a game. Colts Texans this week. Unless you're a Texans or a Bears fan, I can't imagine many people tuning in for.
Or you own a Bears to have the worst record future from August, and you're like, ooh, this is back in play.
Connor has one. Do you have one of those?
I do.
Nice. Okay.
I've already got cashed out on my alt under of 5.5. So the Bears can be very profitable for me after the first 3 weeks. I thought I was dead.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man, I was getting in like fights at the bars over the summer with people, Chicago fans, saying like, I was like, guys, they're going to be horrible, and they're like, no, they're not. They got rid of Nagy, they're going to be good. Like that's all that it takes. I'm like, their roster still sucks. Like it doesn't matter if their coach got better, which it did. I mean, Justin Fields has willed them to even where they're at. Like they shouldn't have even been in most games, to be honest. They should have lost. Maybe not every game, but you get a normal game against San Francisco in week 1 where it's not pissing rain the entire time. They lose that too. So, this could have easily been a 1-2 win team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I had them capped right, and they just a big solid trading away Roquan Smith because since then they haven't stopped anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's been a mess. Yeah. You got off to a really rocky start because we got 3 pretty early, but then, and the schedule looked fairly manageable. But we took a 5.5 alts, and then it actually ended up closing there by the time the season kicked off. So, thank you, Bears, for your continued ineptitude, and I'll be interested to see if the Texans want to show some of that too and give up the number 1 pick because I think that's within the range of outcomes for Houston.
So I played the other same game parlay here. Let's see, what do I have Zay Jones projected? I have him at 6 catches for 72 yards. So what I did play, so this one's a bit riskier. 60-1 though. Zay Jones 75 or more yards. Zay Jones 4 or more receptions. I probably should have flipped that, done 6 or more receptions and lower yardage. Either way, Okonkwo over, Henry over receiving, Lawrence over passing, Etienne under rushing, and Dobbs over rushing. 60-1.
Sounds like a Tom Hoagie outright.
Except this one has a chance of winning.
Mary Rose letting us know that they DraftKings have taken down Etienne and Zay Jones lines currently. So you guys are steaming those and crushing the market. So hopefully you got in when the guys gave out those props, and I'll be interested to see.
I'm on it right now. Zay Jones over 54.5.
Okay.
Minus 120.
There you go. Still playable.
Love it. Yeah, the market probably won't move too much. I think from here out, it'll probably be settled. But I'm very excited to build some awesome same game parlays, just kind of along the lines that we're talking about here, because I feel like we have a really good read on the Jaguars. I'm not necessarily sure the upside is kind of built into that where like what we're looking at, especially with same game parlays. I think you do like alternate same game parlays, even if you just want to focus on the Jaguars, like Lawrence 280, Kirk whatever 75, Ingram 75, something like that. You probably get some great odds on something even a little bit smaller like that.
Love it. All right, Pat. Third look.
It was the Zach Moss.
Zach Moss for me, one of my hosts. Josh, this is gross. I don't love this one. I want receptions for Tyler Higbee versus receiving yards. Receiving yards is out there currently at 30.5. He has been a target hog with Baker Mayfield under center, almost 6 per game, running a route on almost 70% of the dropbacks. Seattle has been dreadful at stopping tight ends. We talked about some of the injuries at linebacker. They have injuries at safety as well. Basically any metric you want. DVOA, Seattle 29th against tight ends, 31st in receiving yards allowed, 32nd in yards per reception. They've just been giving it up. It's basically not a lot of passing game coming from the Raiders at this, or the Rams at this point, but when they do so, Tyler Higbee is pretty heavily involved. I'd imagine we get like 2.5 receptions. I prefer that versus the 30 yards, because even in these games where he's been getting peppered from Baker, some of the yardage outputs are still a little hard to get your head around. So I'd prefer that if we get a decent number on 2.5, but just kind of a good matchup, and want to see where the books post that. But again, kind of thin pickings with where we're at currently. Any thoughts on Higbee there, Pat?
I bet he'll open at 4 or 3.5 with heavy.
Really?
G.
Okay. Yeah.
I haven't projected at 4.5. So
okay.
Usually the numbers aren't that far off.
So there is an incentive here that could matter. I mean, he needs 13 yards for a $500,000 bonus. So obviously he'll get that like pretty easily. But I think the point is that if you're betting receptions, it probably means like they're probably scheming up maybe like one extra play for him or something like that. So 1 or 2 maybe, just to get him that 13 yards. But I think from the reception perspective, like even if it's, one of those like a play action bootleg where he's kind of leaking out, something like that, that could add up real quick to like 1 or 2 quick receptions. And get you over this number, at least put you on a good start. So, I mean, I know it's a little bit thin, but that's something that I think potentially could actually matter.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's got a bunch of targets and receptions the last couple of games. 5 targets, caught 4 of them against Green Bay, 27 yards. 3 catches on 4 targets last week, 11 yards. So like he can very well, get peppered with targets and not get there. We actually are right around, it sounds like, where Pat is in our projections at 4.9 receptions, actually for 46 yards, which is, I think, a little healthy there too. Part of it's just the matchup is so much better than some of the matchups in the past couple of weeks. So yeah, maybe the 3.5 is still probably in play depending on the price there. So worth a look, and I'll be waiting to see when that comes out, when the reception market starts to evolve, because there's really nothing out there for us right now. So, all right, Connor, back to you. Last couple things you want to let us know.
This is one that I saw and smiled about because I knew that you would love it. Josh Allen's rushing yard is only 40 right now, just 40 even. Must-win game for Josh. I know that he got stifled a little bit by New England last time, but they were winning by like 2 scores heading into the fourth quarter, 3 scores, I think, actually, 17 points. This is basically a playoff game for them. Essentially, they're going to treat it as a must-win scenario. New England plays a ton of man. Generally, have not been great against rushing quarterbacks because Josh Allen has like routinely gone over this number. So I thought it was a great look. I think it's. I mean, I know that this is normally your style, but I would expect this to close around like 45, 46.
Yeah, I like it. I have it on my list as something to look for when it pops, or maybe I wanted to dig into it a little bit because New England's been really bad against rushing quarterbacks, as you mentioned. So yeah, the man stuff, that's kind of what I wanted to dig into, is a little bit of New England's tendency of late, shifting from a little bit more man early in the season to more zone. But still, you mentioned we like this in the playoffs with the rushing quarterbacks. Mahomes has been one we've had success with the last handful of years, because he's typically lines in like the low to mid-teens and routinely gets 20+ rushing yards in playoff games. So yeah, I can get behind that. Pat, any thoughts about Josh Allen rushing?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 things with the Rams game and the Bills game. I love the Rams against the Seahawks, and I love the Bills to smash the Patriots this week. So anything over from those games, I love it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. How about last stuff for you? Empty the clip here.
I'm trying to find it here. Where is it? Where are receptions? Give me some receptions. Of course, they're not giving me any receptions. It's hard to find stuff this week, man. Like nothing's out yet.
I know.
Derrick Henry over 14.5 receiving yards in this game. I wanted to take I assumed it was over 2 receptions, but maybe I'm wrong with that. That's what it's listed at Prize Picks right now, is 2 receptions. The receiving, it's 2.5 at Juiced Plus money on DraftKings. I'm guessing it's going to end up being 2. I like the 2. You get the push. I do think he gets to 3, but I'd rather have the out of having the push and getting my money back. But 14.5, he ends up with 2 receptions. He's beating that number anyway. So I'll just go over 14.5. It's at 365.
It sat out for a very long time at 1.5, but it was like minus 190 across the board. I don't know. You just don't see that very often. And now they, of course, have moved it because people were probably still betting it, it looks like. So, yeah, plus money, 2.5, no matter your book. So, no problem with that. Another leg to the same game parlay that we were talking about there, too. So, yeah, limited with what we have currently. Let me see a couple of things that I want to look at. I have no analysis to this. Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 touchdowns. He's just going to throw 3 touchdowns. I don't know. Like there's no rhyme or reason. He's just going to. I did look at it and actually even Joe Connor and I gave him some like previous matchup against the Raiders stuff where he's thrown for like 4, 5. That's really noise. I can't actually even do that with a straight face. He's just going to throw for 3 touchdowns here, and you can get plus money, or basically like minus 105 at like DraftKings, I think, for Mahomes. So he's going to throw 3 touchdowns. I don't know. It's going to happen.
Yeah, and if he gets to, what does he need to break the record? 443?
Yeah, I think it's 430.
So good alt total there. I wonder what that alt is. You can make money.
There's a FanDuel special 7-1.
That's what it is?
Yeah, that's what I saw on FanDuel earlier in the week.
Yeah, I don't even know if that site really exists, so I wouldn't put my money there. Passing alts. Let's see. Passing touchdown milestones. At some point there's too many markets, right?
I don't know. You could argue that
on the drop down list. Yeah, over 400 here is plus 550. So there's nothing beyond 400 for him.
Yeah, he's going to throw 3 scores. So let's just take that. No analysis there. Some tackle looks. Tackles were very depressing last week. They gave us 8 teams. Very limited 8 team. I imagine the week 18 market is pretty limited. Some of the stuff I gave out here on the show was never even available. We'll start with Nate Hobbs. He is a cornerback for the Raiders. That will be a Saturday night one. Hobbs has been I don't think he's a very good corner. Been targeted a lot and gets a lot of tackles pretty consistently. I have him projected for just a tad under 7. He's got he'll probably come out at 5.5. I actually gave producer Sal this one last time they played. And I think he got it in the first quarter last time against the Chiefs. I think just, again, Mahomes is going to be throwing a lot. Hobbs is basically the only every down corner that's playing for the Raiders right now. 5.5 over would be a look for Hobbs. And then 2 teams. If we get Broncos, I love the 2 Broncos linebackers, Alex Singleton, Josie Jewell. Those guys get a ton of tackles. They've had nothing to play for weeks, and they play every down for the most part. Jewell does. They'll both probably be at 9.5. I'm fine with that. You get a lot of tackles against what I'm assuming is the backups against the Chargers here. Those guys will be heavily involved. Last time Singleton played the Chargers, he had 21 tackles, just a pretty good day. Again, 9.5, I'm going to take the over on both those guys. And then we'll go back to our home field advantage scorekeeper stuff that we have with the Falcons. Rashad Evans and Richie Grant, if those happen to get popped, they did not last week. Evans will probably be a 9.5. I'll take him over. I have him just a tad under 11. Richie Grant, I would take up to 6.5. If you got a 6.5, it's probably plus money. And I have him up just a little bit over 7.5. Again, good matchup, good scorekeeper stuff. Those guys play every down, and they've had nothing to play for, so I'm not really worried about playing time there. So, but I imagine the tackle market's pretty limited this week. I'm excited for playoff tackles to see what that market looks like, to see if it's a little bit more robust because there's fewer games, and maybe that's easier for them to handle. So, excited for that. So, all right, gents, flying through because we have nothing to really talk about.
This will get more fun next week when we do it on Friday. Everything will be out.
Totally. I can't wait. Yeah, way different than this. Let's see what some of your questions are. If you guys have any, again, let us know in the chat. Boynton wants to know my hat. BetSports Golf. Really poorly designed hat by Andy. I'm not sure what he was thinking. This is like blue and this is green, and they don't match, and it's different from this.
Whoop.
It's not great.
I have mine right here. Whoop.
Nice BetSports hat right there by Pat.
Yeah, there we are.
That's a good hat. My BetSports hat I like. This is, just trying to rep. It's a comfortable hat, so at least that. There's a beige version that's even worse than this. So we don't have a merch store, so I can't even pretend to try and sell it to you. Could not do that in good faith anyway. But betsportsgolf.com, check it out. All right. Are we interested in anything in the Detroit and Green Bay game? We didn't give anything from that game, and it's readily available. So I would think that we don't have any strong leans in that one. Again, I think you could get into the narrative around that game meaning nothing for Detroit. I think we agree that this is probably an all-out scenario for the Lions regardless. Dan Campbell doesn't seem to have we're going to rest our dudes kind of vibes. Pat, anything that you even considered for this one?
Not really, tell you the truth. The only one I was looking at because it's available. Tyreek Hill over 68.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I took Tyreek last week, 70.5, which I thought was just way too low, and we didn't get there. Tougher matchup against the Jets this week, but it's Tyreek, right? I mean, literally 2 catches, he can do that. So, Connor, Tyreek thoughts, Green Bay.
We were talking earlier about Jared Goff unders potentially. I mean, any thoughts on that? That number shot down was like 250 something originally. Now it's like in the low mid 240s. I mean, I don't think there's a chance that they get benched, but I do think there's a chance that they just run the ball to Jamal a bunch or DeAndre Swift and kind of, play tough, but maybe they're not going all out. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
Is there a reason you decided not to play that? Because you seemed pretty excited about it at first.
No, I liked it. A site you might have heard of called Run the Sims had Jared Goff for a delicious 210 passing yards.
That has been adjusted.
Okay.
It is 213.
Okay. Well, I can see I like the under. I lean under there. Again, you have small hands Goff in the cold. They have been going over this. Again, a lot of times he's gone over this, and I think that's probably what's inflating a lot of the numbers is it's been home games. First time they matched up, again, 1 game sample. You don't want to make a lot out of it. Closely contested 1-score game, which I would assume this to probably be for the most part. Goff got to 157 in that game against Green Bay, who's definitely playing way better defense. So I need to go back and look a little bit more. We were right at the number, right around 260, which we tend to be. But it caught my attention when I saw that Run the Sims had him in 210. So it's definitely worthwhile and looking a little bit more into. So yeah, I mean, you can sell me on Amon-Ra, St. Brown receptions and stuff like that, but I don't know. I feel like Jair Alexander will probably chase him around a little bit, and he seems to be feeling himself currently based off of last week. So just nothing that really jumps out to me. Again, another question here from Lucas. Thoughts on A.J. Dillon on rushing yards? I feel like it's probably priced correctly in the high to mid 40s. You guys agree?
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I always just struggle with these running backs on Green Bay because there was a while where there was a flip-flopping back and forth every week. It was who do they want to use? And then there was Aaron Jones got a little bit banged up, and then A.J. Dillon got a little bit banged up, and now it's just been back and forth essentially all year. So, yeah, I don't know. I think in a must-win game, who do they go to? What's their strategy? Because the Lions were actually playing great run defense until they got, wrecked, murdered by the Panthers, in the trenches. And now, I don't know, maybe Green Bay finds that to be their path of least resistance and runs the ball a ton. Maybe they come out and sling it because I think that's probably actually their best advantage. But I just have no idea. And I really don't feel that confident that Green Bay absolutely crushes the Lions either. So for me, it's just kind of a big stay away from that game.
Yeah, it's not. I just remember last time they played, I was so excited to bet Aaron Jones, and he sucked and then got hurt. And so I can't even be he fell under the prop because he got hurt. No, he was comfortably sucking pre-injury, and he's been on the list, the do not prop list since it happened. So just too noisy of a backfield. I kind of agree. All right, that's Sam. He subs to BetSports Golf for the content, not the ill-designed hats. Thank you, Sam. Hopefully we could do better with the hats. Saul wants to know about Scotty Scheffler live 7-1. Pat, golf is back, buddy.
I do like. I mean, I'm already invested this week, but I think if I was going to give a live look, that would be the look. Like it's a pretty spicy number for a guy who lost, who was basically the worst putter in the field, not named Billy Horschel, who was the worst in everything yesterday. But I mean, he shot 7 under and couldn't make a putt. That's usually a good sign.
Pretty good. Yeah, there's 8-1s out there as well on Sky. 7 would be actually the worst of the number. I'm looking
now
at
when Hideki wins and I cash my big money, that's going to happen. But I'll just root for Morikawa since he's in first already.
I like the Hideki. I did not pull the trigger, but I liked Hideki. I thought it was a bad number comparative to where he should be. So
no,
Connor,
you think that Hideki at 45 against Seamus Power at 35 was an incorrect number on someone?
It's not great. Not great considering he won in Hawaii last year. There's, again, I think it's the
or that he's Hideki Matsuyama, not Seamus Power.
Seamus Power, yeah. I think the Augusta corollary is probably a little bit of a stretch, but you talk about like uneven lies and some of that stuff, and I don't know. Hideki seems to like playing at Augusta. So, Connor, did you tail any golf picks this week? Are you invested?
No
Just
golf bets for me this week.
You're just waiting for Akshay Bhatia to get back in the mix.
Yeah, love Akshay Bhatia. I might need to buy I guess do golfers have they have merch, but they don't have what can I buy to support Akshay Bhatia? Like a hat or something or what?
Do you buy NFT probably?
I might be out there. That might be drawing the line. If Akshay Bhatia is a big NFT guy, I might have to withdraw my support.
Yeah. Connor's best friend has he is a Bhatia, and so he's blindly supporting Akshay here based off of name alone. So good stuff as always. All right, that's it. No need to drag it out for an hour because we don't have anything else for you. Watch the market, slow to release. You'll probably see some more stuff here in Friday evening, Saturday. It just is what we deal with at the tail end of the season. So thanks for riding with us and hanging out again. We'll be going through the Super Bowl. To Pat's point, we'll have a lot more next week because we typically on a Friday afternoon for a playoff slate have a lot. We'll have 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday. We should have the majority of the board posted by this time next week. So good stuff as always. Pat, tell everyone where they can find and subscribe and listen to all your stuff.
The Pat Mayo Experience podcast on Apple or Spotify, or just go on over to the Mayo Media Network on the YouTubes. You find all my stuff up there.
Love it. Connor, more props for both of us still to come. And our subscribers will be hanging out Sunday morning in the Discord. We'll probably have a little bit more in-depth thoughts around some of the stuff that is shaped in the market in the 48 hours since this recording and into Sunday. So again, 4for4.com/plans. No promo code. Jump right in. $34 to the end of the season and jump in the Discord. We'll hang out with you there. So for Pat and Connor and Ryan, we'll see you all next week. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah!